Janavalabha Girivaladari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Yamuna Tira Nachari Anjaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Anjaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Janava Girivara Dari Jaya Gopi Janava Girivara Dari Yamuna Tira Chari Yamuna Tira Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Shri Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai Shri Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Reading from Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam, Chapter 2, Text 2, Canto 2, Chapter 2, Text 35. Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Sarva, all. Bhuteshu, Lakshitaha Svatmanam Harihi Drishyayai Buddhyai Bihi Lakshanai Anumapakai Bhagavan Sarvabhuteshu Lakshita Svatmaharihi Sharbudhyadi Birdrishya Lakshanera Muna Prakai Bhagavan Sarvabhuteshu Lakshita Svatmana Harihi Drishya Budya Birdrishya Lakshanara Muna Prakai Bhagavan Sarvabhuteshu Lakshita Svatmana Harihi Drishya Budyadi Birdrishya Lakshanara Muna Prakai
Bhagavan Sarvabhuteshu
Bhagavan Sarvabhuteshu
Akshita Svatmana Harihi
Lakshita Svatmana Harihi
Vishyar Budyadi Birdrushta
Budyadi Birdrishya
Lakshinayranuma Pakai
Bhagavan Sarvabhuteshu
Bhagavan Sarvabhuteshu
Lakshita Svatmana Harihi Drishar Budyadi Birdashta Lakshanaranu Pakai Bhagavan Sarvabhuteshu
Bhagavan Sarvabhuteshu
Laksita Svatmana Hari
Lakshita Svatmana Harihi
Drashir Buddhi Adi Birdashta Laksanir Anuma Pakai
Bhagavan Sarvabhuteshu
Bhagavan Sarvabhuteshu
Lakshita Svatmana Harihi Trishyer Budyadi Birdrishta Lakshaner Anumapakahi
Lakshanaranu
Bhagavan Sarvabhuteshu
Bhagavan Sarvabhuteshu
Akshita Svatmana Harihi Vishyar Budyadi Birdrushta
Birdrishya
Lakshanayranuma Pakai
Lakshanaranu Pakai
Bhagavan Sarvabhuteshu
Bhagavan Sarvabhuteshu
Lakshita Svatmana Hari
Lakshita Svatmana Harihi
Vishir Buddhi Adbihir Drashta
Drishya Budyadi Birdrishya
Laksanir Anumakpai
Lakshanaranu Pakai
Bhagavan Sarvabhuteshu
Bhagavan Sarvabhuteshu
Lakshita Svatmana Harihi
Lakshita Svatmana Harihi
Buddhyad Drishta
Drishya Budyadi Birdrishya
Lakshanar Anumapakai
Lakshanaranu Pakai
Bhagavan Sarvabhuteshu
Bhagavan Sarvabhuteshu
Lakshita Swadmana Hari
Lakshita Svatmana Harihi
Shishyar Budyadi Birdrashta
Drishya Budyadi Drishya
Lakshanar Hanuma Pakai
Lakshanaranu Pakai That's everyone? Okay. There's a bit of an echo downstairs. Would you please turn it down? Translation. Or we'll do the word meanings. Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Sarva, all. Bhuteshu, in the living entities. Lakshita is visible. Swaatmana, along with the self. Harihi, the Lord. Krishyai, by what is seen. Buddhyadibihi, by intelligence. Drista, one who sees. Lakshanai, by different signs. Anumapakai, by hypothesis. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, is in every living being along with the individual soul. And this fact is perceived and hypothesized in our acts of seeing and taking help from the intelligence. Purport. The general argument of the common man is that since the Lord is not visible to our eyes, how can one either surrender unto him or render transcendental loving service unto him? To such a common man, here is a practical suggestion given by Srila Shukadeva Goswami as to how one can perceive the Supreme Lord by reason and perception. Actually, the Lord is not perceivable by our present material senses. But when one is convinced of the presence of the Lord by practical service attitude, there is a revelation by the Lord's mercy, and such a pure devotee of the Lord can perceive the Lord's presence always and everywhere. He can perceive that intelligence is the form direction of the Paramatma plenary portion of the personality of Godhead. The presence of Paramatma in everyone's company is not very difficult to realize, even for the common man. The procedure is as follows. One can perceive one's self-identification and feel positively that he exists. He may not feel it very abruptly, but by using little intelligence, he can feel that he is not the body. He can feel that the hand, the leg, the head, and the hair, and the limbs are all his bodily parts and parcels. But as such, the hand, the leg, the head, etc., cannot be identified with his self. Therefore, just by using the intelligence, he can distinguish and separate his self from the other things that he sees. So the natural conclusion is that the living being, either man or beast, is the seer, and he sees besides himself all other things. So there is a difference between the seer and the seen. Now, by a little use of intelligence, we can also readily agree that the living being who sees the things beyond himself by ordinary vision has no power to see or to move independently. Our ordinary actions and perceptions depend on various forms of energy supplied to us by nature in various combinations. Our senses of perception and action, that is to say, our 5 perceptive senses of 1, hearing, 2, touch, 3, sight, 4, taste, and 5, smell, as well as our 5 senses of action, namely hands, legs, speech, evacuation organs, reproductive organs, and also the 3 subtle senses, namely mind, intelligence, and ego. Therein, 13 senses in all, are supplied to us by various arrangements of gross or subtle forms of natural energy. And it is equally evident that our objects of perception are nothing but the products of the inexhaustible permutations and combinations of the forms taken by natural energy. As this conclusively proves that the ordinary living being has no independent power of perception or motion, and as we undoubtedly feel our existence being conditioned by nature's energy, we conclude that he who sees is spirit, and that the senses as well as the objects of perception are material. The spiritual quality of the seer is manifest in our dissatisfaction with the limited state of materially conditioned existence. Everyone with me here? So I'll repeat that again. Because Prabhupada, he makes this point a lot. The spiritual quality of the seer is manifest in our dissatisfaction with the limited state of materially conditioned existence. So Prabhupada would often say that this is your qualification. You tried it all in the material world and you were not satisfied. Therefore, you come to Krishna consciousness and you see firsthand the Lord is personally imparting his mission upon the eternal conditioned soul. It's the first time we've ever felt satisfaction, right? Rendering service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, isn't it? Nothing else was satisfying. That's amazing, isn't it? So that is the difference between spirit and matter. If somebody is serving the material, if somebody is using his intelligence to merely just try to manipulate material energy, we see it's a misuse of his intelligence and he's not being given any reciprocation whatsoever. He can try to accumulate so much wealth, so many cars in his garage, nice house, nice food to feed his family, but he's still completely dissatisfied at the end of the day because he's engaging in so many different sinful activities and he knows deep down he has a conscience, right? And the conscience, it can perceive the difference between right and wrong. And he's busy going throughout his day, cheating and stealing and looting the public to provide for his family. And he's thinking, oh, I'll be satisfied because my family's happy. But actually he's not, because he's using the intelligence that God has given him and the ability that God has given him poorly. He's misusing his intelligence because he doesn't quite know what it's supposed to be directed at. So once the living entity, he obtains some knowledge and he obtains some causeless mercy from a devotee of the Lord, he's able to develop some jnana and not misuse intelligence any longer. He can work towards directing his intelligence properly, which is to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And see that I'm not the doer. I'm not doing anything. I'm just situated in this body. This body is just like cloth. It gets worn out. It's very temporary. My material situation, it's completely temporary. So why waste so much time carrying after temporary things? Isn't there something eternal that I can try to pursue? So he starts to question once he obtains a little knowledge. So this is the difference between spirit and matter. There are some less intelligent arguments that matter develops the power of seeing and moving as a certain organic development. But such an argument cannot be accepted because there is no experimental evidence that matter has anywhere produced a living entity. Trust no future, however pleasant. Idle talks regarding future development of matter into spirit are actually foolish, because no matter has ever developed from the power of seeing or moving in any part of the world. So some less intelligent people who lack knowledge, they might see a pile of rice. They're walking down the street and they see some baby scorpions emerge from this pile of rice. They'll think, oh, the scorpions, they came from the rice. When rice sits for some time, scorpions, they develop. But this is due to a lack of knowledge. Little does he know there are eggs laid in that pile of rice. There is a mother scorpion, a father scorpion, and they're coming from another living entity. Life comes from life. It doesn't just come from dull matter. This is one of the examples that are given by our acharyas. Therefore, it is definite that matter and spirit are two different identities. And this conclusion is arrived by the use of intelligence. Prabhupada talks, there's matter and there's antimatter, right? There's the spiritual and the material. But of course, once one develops his consciousness to a point, he can use everything that is so-called antimatter or material in the Lord's service. Just about everything. Of course, there are some things that Krishna doesn't like to accept. He says, Phalam pushpam phalam toyam. He likes to accept a leaf, water, fruit, water, with love and devotion. So he's not after our pushpam or our phalam. He doesn't want our leaves or our fruit. He doesn't need it, I should say. He wants our love. He wants our bhakti. He wants to see that we're thinking of him. So somebody can be in the streets, going for a walk, going from A to B, and they see some nice flowers on the ground. And the materialist who is still enamored by Durga Devi, he sees the flower and he picks it and he smells it himself or thinks, oh, this is a nice flower, I'll give it to my girlfriend, right? But the devotee, he develops the consciousness where he picks the flower and says, this is very nice. I bet it has a very nice fragrance. It has very nice color, very nice texture. I will go back and offer it to the Lord with love and devotion. And the Lord, he takes this and you make progress in this way. So the more that we're acting on behalf of Krishna, the more progress we make. And the more that we're referring back to our conditioned state where we're acting with selfish motive and my own self-interest, we remain conditioned. So Guru Maharaj, as you know, you're always welcome and we are always very pleased to hear from you. So if you feel like you would like to add anything, please do. We would very much appreciate it. So continuing with the purport, one fails to take advantage of intelligence, he becomes a deranged man. And so a living being is dependent on intelligence or the direction of a superior being. Such intelligence is all-pervading. Every living being has an intelligence, and this intelligence is being directed by some higher authority. It's just like the father giving direction to his son. The higher authority, who is present and residing within every individual being, is the super soul, the Paramatma. Krishna, he is directing the wanderings of all living entities. He's seated within the heart. From him comes remembrance and forgetfulness. Everything we do, every situation that arises in this world that we find ourselves in has a cause. And that cause is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everything that the Jiva soul does is being arranged by Paramatma within the heart. But due to his conditioned state, he's misusing the opportunity to serve improperly. Because he's thinking, let me try to enjoy. Because this material world, it's a prison. It's a prison house for those who wanted to enjoy separately from Krishna. And we were sent here. We were sent here with this alluring energy and this conditioned consciousness thinking that I can enjoy for myself. And we try birth after birth after birth. And we see so many people come to this Krishna consciousness movement for 4 different reasons. They're distressed, they're inquisitive, they're in search of wealth, or they want to know about the supreme truth, the absolute truth, Supreme Personality of Godhead. So all walks of life come to this movement. And out of all of these people, all of them are distressed whether they know it or not. They might be thinking that they're enjoying in the material world, but Prabhupada, he points out that this dissatisfaction is a quality. It's a prerequisite to take up devotional service. We will not take up devotional service if we are satisfied with the material energy. So the question comes to mind, how much dissatisfaction did you actually have in the material world? And this is one of the prominating factors that will keep a devotee in devotional service after he takes it up. If he takes it up for some time and then forgets about how dissatisfying pursuing material existence was, he can very well leave at any moment. Nobody is forced to stay here. We see it all the time, and it's very difficult to see somebody go. It's very difficult because wow, they have actually, due to causeless mercy of the Lord and the devotees who are pursuing this with their life, body, and soul, with everything, you have come in contact with a pure movement, the only thing left that's pure in this Kali Yuga. And you had a great chance. You have a great chance, the highest chance to go back home, back to Godhead, and get out of this material cycle of repeated birth, death, disease, and old age. And you come to Krishna consciousness, and because your consciousness hasn't developed in a way, you haven't developed intelligence, that the material world, it's useless, it's a useless pursuit, and it's completely dissatisfying. There's nothing in it for you. Because you're not fully convinced of that, you end up leaving. And you think, oh, I'm going to try one more time to enjoy. I can take this up when I grow old. But what does growing old mean? Growing old means close to death, and we never know when we're going to go. We can go at any moment. Somebody we think, oh, I'm 21, I'm white, I'm American, I don't need to rely on anyone. I am dependent. Right? But this Krishna consciousness movement, it teaches us we have to declare our dependence on Krishna, or else we're doomed. We have no reason to not start cultivating this consciousness, declaring our dependence on Krishna. For those of us who have taken up full time, this is the shot you're going to get. It's not promised in your next life that you're going to have a chance to take up devotional service. So why are we wasting so much time? So why are we not enthusiastic to dance for the Lord, to sing for the Lord, to give Him pleasure, to do all of our activities for the sole purpose without considering any personal happiness or distress? Why are we not eager to just serve Him and do everything for Him? Oh, I'll come to the program. I'll do a little chanting there. I'll try to get by. I'll try to make the best of it. But no, I don't really want to do congregational chanting outside of, what I'm required to do, because, I want to do what I want to do. I'll do what I'm told to do, but, I think that's enough for today. This is our conditioned mentality, because we're thinking, okay, I'm going to do this for my own satisfaction. It's easier to live in the temple. I don't really want to work a job. So, I'll go along with the program and, just float on by for, my life, and hopefully I make some advancement. If that's what you feel like doing with your life, that's okay. That's good. It's better than not, but this is the shot that we get to go back home to Godhead. And are we taking advantage of it to the fullest extent? Are we really trying to think of Krishna at every second of the day? Are we really trying to serve Him wholeheartedly and do everything as an offering to our Guru Maharaj? If the Sadhana Bhakta, it's described, if he pursues devotional service out of duty, of course, that's given by a spiritual master, but if he observes some kind of vrat or some kind of austerity for the Lord, Akadashi vrat, we observe every fortnight there is an Akadashi. So if somebody observes this and goes on, that is okay. He gets some benefit. He might get a little bit of benefit. He gets some benefit. But if somebody pursues this as an offering to his spiritual master, this benefit is multiplied by 100 times, and both the spiritual master and the disciple both get far greater benefit than just pursuing it for your own self. In fact, all of the service that we render, this is the case. Are we doing this service, we have to ask ourselves why we're doing this service. And are we doing this as an offering to my spiritual master? This is very essential. This is very important. This is ABCs of developing love of God, because I don't have love for God. And I'm trying to develop it desperately. And out of no ability by myself can I develop even a smidgen, because I have no idea who he is. I have no idea what he wants. I'm in deep, dark illusion, and I'm drowning in this material ocean, and I desperately want to get out. And here is a person, our whole lives, we can't trust anybody. Everybody's been getting one over on us and manipulating us, and there's always a hidden agenda. And here is one person who I have met in my life that is not trying to win me over, that is not trying to manipulate me and steer me wrong for his own personal sense-grandizement. So let me take shelter of his lotus feet, because he's desperately trying to save me. But I'm so stubborn that I don't want to be saved. He's throwing me a raft, and I want to reach for it and throw it back at him and say, I think I can swim. So everything we do is an offering unto you, Gurudev. Guru is one. The spiritual master, he's guiding the disciple back home, back to Godhead. And the instruction in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, Gaudiya Brahma Sampradaya, the instructing spiritual master is one, meaning he is going to get you back home. He is going to be able to see perfectly how he can engage you to the best ability so you can make the most advancement. So what are we going to do with it? So at this point in our investigation, continuing with the purport, we may consider the following question. On the one hand, we realize that all our perception and activities are conditioned by arrangements of material nature. Yet we ordinarily feel and say, I am perceiving, or I am doing. Therefore, we can say that our material senses of perception and action are moving because we are identifying with the self, with the material body. And that the superior principle of super self is guiding and supplying us according to our desire. By taking advantage of the guidance of super self in the form of intelligence, we can either continue to study and to put into practice our conclusion that I am not this body, or we can choose to remain in the false material identification, fancying ourselves to be the possessors and doers. Our freedom consists in orienting our desire either toward the ignorant material misconceptions or the true spiritual conception. We can easily attain to the true spiritual conception by recognizing the super self, Paramatma, to be our friend and guide, by dovetailing our intelligence with the superior intelligence of Paramatma. Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Jai. The super self and the individual self are both spirit, and therefore the super self and the individual self are both qualitatively one and distinct from matter. But the super self and individual self can be on an equal level because the super self gives direction or supplies intelligence, and the individual self follows the direction. And thus, actions are performed properly. So this is where free will comes into place. So the super soul, it is directing us, it is giving us some instruction, and Krishna is also giving us free will because he's so merciful. He's saying you can either choose to do the right thing or you can do the wrong thing. And it's our choice if we do that or not. So there's a story of Gargamuni Prabhu in the early days, and he would come to the temple room and he stopped paying obeisances to the deities. And some of the devotees and the temple leaders, they said, why is he not paying obeisances anymore? They told Prabhupada, and Prabhupada asked Gargamuni Prabhu, why are you doing like this? And he said, Prabhupada, I have to be true to myself, but I don't feel like paying obeisances. So why should I do it? And Prabhupada said, you need to pay obeisances whether you feel like it or not. Because actually, we don't always feel like doing it. So in the early stages, practice is very required. Because we are very conditioned and we are very covered over by ignorance. So we're not actually in the consciousness a lot of the time that, okay, let me do something for the Lord. We are just thinking out of lust. And we are just thinking, I don't feel like doing it, so I'm going to enjoy. I'll go to the back of the room and I don't want to pay obeisances. I don't want to go to class. I don't want to participate. So I'll just, show up. But no, this practice is required. And practice, the athlete, he's trying so hard to develop strength. If he can't lift something at first, he'll try, and does he just give up? Does he just say, oh, I'll go to the gym, but I don't want to lift those weights and get stronger? No. He doesn't just go to the gym to check out the girls there. He goes there because he wants to develop strength. He doesn't just sit in the back. No, he has to be enthusiastic. He has to try with his heart and soul at every moment. And this is where free will comes into play, because Paramatma and the spiritual master has given us a program to make the utmost spiritual advancement. He has given us instructions personally of how he thinks we can go back home, back to Godhead. And if we take that as our life and soul, whether we're without considering if I'm happy or distressed at all, let's consider pleasing God. Then the sadhaka will make rapid spiritual advancement. The face is an index of the mind, Srila Prabhupada would always say. You can tell if somebody is thinking about Krishna, if somebody is doing everything as an offering to Krishna, because Krishna, he'll put you back in Maya if you're not. And he'll take you right out of Maya and he'll situate you in his devotional service and he'll give you so many qualities. If you're thinking about him and doing everything as an offering to him. But then comes thinking, oh, I am the doer. I am so good. Look at me. This is tendency for the conditioned soul. As soon as he gets a little mercy from the Lord, he wants to take it and he wants to selfishly hoard it and say, oh, I'm the best one. Look at how I can do this. This is our conditioned state. We're not the doer at all. We're not doing anything. These bodies are useless, lumps of stool and blood and pus. They're just coverings. They're completely useless. This cloth, if it's folded and just sitting there, is it going to move around? Is it going to be utilized? Is the cloth going to do anything? But no, if I put the cloth on, it takes the shape of the body and it moves around. It's being used. This body is just a vehicle. So we can't mistake that I am doing anything, that I am this mind, that I am this body. This is misconception. I am the soul, and let me use this as my vehicle to go back home. Realization of the super self by the individual self is the beginning of self-realization. And by the progress of such self-realization, one is able to realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead by intelligence, by the help of authorized scriptures, and principally by the grace of the Lord. The Bhagavad Gita is the preliminary conception of the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, and Srimad Bhagavatam is the further explanation of the science of Godhead. So if we stick to our determination and pray for the mercy, the director of intelligence sitting within the same bodily tree, like a bird sitting with another bird, as explained in the Upanishads, clearly the purport of the revealed information in the Vedas becomes clear to our vision, and there is no difficulty in realizing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. The intelligent man, therefore, after many births in such use of intelligence, surrenders himself at the lotus feet of Vasudeva as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. So the conclusion of this text, Yena sarvam idam tatam, avisyasi tu tad vidhi, Yena shravam idam tatam. Bhagavad Gita 2:17. I am soul, you are also soul, and your consciousness is spread all over your body. My consciousness is spread all over my body, but my consciousness is not spread all over your body. Therefore, we are individual. Therefore, each one of us are individual living entities. There is the Gya and the Chichagya. There is the field of activities and the knower of the field of activities. And there is Krishna, who is the eternal, and there is us, which we are the marginal potency, this in between. And then there is the temporary manifestation of this material world. So we are given this opportunity to serve him with our life. And we are very, very blessed to be given this opportunity. So let us use it for the highest good, to help every living entity by learning how to render pure devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. Does anyone have any comments or questions on today's verse, or any corrections? Mataji. Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for these nice meditations, Prabhu. Is it all right if I make a comment?
Yes, of course.
I appreciate you speaking on how like Guru is one, and how I just really like this meditation on, like, am I doing this for Guru? Am I actually giving my best in this service for Guru, which is ultimately, our service to Krishna, which I thought was really nice. It's just hearing you speak, it made me realize how foolish I am. I recently read in the Srimad Bhagavatam that, in one of Prabhupada's purports, that a foolish man has a difficult time receiving instruction. They just become angry. And as I heard you describing some thoughts that a devotee might have throughout our services, or throughout the artis or kirtans, or you just shared a lot of thoughts that a devotee could have, of complacency and things like this. And so in my mind, it actually it struck a little bit of anger, oh man, that's not me, but it's oh yeah, okay, sometimes that's me. And it's something I could work on. So thank you for sharing those realizations and encouragement that, we're really fortunate to be here. And although Danavir Maharaj is not my Diksha Guru, I do see him as Guru, and I want to serve him, and I want to get better at doing that. And I think all of us do, since we're all here. So thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for sharing those heartfelt realizations and very honest comments. Yes, I'm sharing these things because these are things that I have realized in myself. It's not that I'm pointing fingers at anyone else. I may appear to come off heavy giving a class like this, but it is only because I am very heavy with myself. And this is the only way I can learn, because I am very stubborn. So I'm merely attempting to speak from realization. And like Mataji said, hopefully the sadhus here can use that as inspiration to move forward, and it might spark something in themselves to take this seriously. Because as this verse is saying, we are all individuals. We are all individuals in the spiritual world. We are all individuals here in this material world. These souls are ever existing since time immemorial. And our souls can offer something so unique and so precious to Krishna that no one else can offer, that it is our duty to be there, to be able to give that to Krishna. We're rascals, so he's going without because of us. He's not able to be with us. We're not able to be in the spiritual world and give him that individuality, that thing that is so distinct and personal. We're not giving it to him because we thought we could just sit here and enjoy separate. So let's strive to give him what he rightfully deserves. Let's strive to develop real love for him. Put him first in everything. And in that way, go back home, back to Godhead in this life by chanting Harinam Sankirtan. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Gaura Nitai ki jai. All glories